In this presentation, we try to answer the question: are the precepts of the Quran, that, according to Quran, Allah revealed, consistent with Allah's previous teachings? The Quran pretends it was revealed in completion of the Torah then the Gospel. As was said in Surah Al-Imran, number 3, verse 3, He has revealed to you the book with truth, confirming what was in His hands, and He revealed the Torah and the Gospel. Some scholars doing research in the Quran said that you find in it many texts that seem translated from the following traditions: Manichaean, Iranian, Christian, Syriac and Aramean and Greek, and, most of all, Jewish. Especially the Talmud, the Midrash, and the Targum. However, the specificity of the Quran with respect to the Torah and the Gospel, is that, in the explanations of the first Muslims, in most of the verses that commands the believers to do something, they recall that the verse was revealed because of a specific event in Muhammad's life, for example, or an event that happened and triggered talk about it among the believers, before the corresponding verse was revealed. Hence, the cause of the revelation is not the application of a basic value, which was announced before that event, or previous laws edicted for the Muslim community. As an example between the examples, take the explanation of Al-Tabari and the explanation of Ibn Kathir for Surah Al-Talaq, number 65, verse 1. You will learn that it was revealed because Muhammad divorced Hafsa. And Ibn Kathir informs us, from Anas, that the verse was revealed after the family of Hafsa came, after the divorce. Point 44. The word of Allah and His precepts were stable in the Torah, and even more in the Gospel, without any need to human events to get declared. Because Allah has recorded all things in writing, as was said in Surah Al-Naba, number 78, verse 29. And also because, the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. None can change His words. And He is the All-Hearer, the All-Knower. As was said in Surah Al-An'am, number 6, verse 115. It appears that the Quran changes its precepts after human events, and that is why it is impossible that it was revealed by Allah the Truthful and All-Knowing. The Quran asks for the killing of whole categories of the inhabitants and of human society, those who refuse to convert to Islam, the apostates, and the atheists and the homosexuals and those who play music, and those who follow a religion that is not among the religions of the people of the book, and then the Jews and the associators, which means the Christians, because they associate Jesus to Allah, then the Muslims who did not obey the leader. Point 45. The Quran contains many calls and orders for Muslims to kill and be violent. If Allah is capable of everything, does He need people to carry out His will and orders on the earth? There are 65 passages in which the Quran asks our Muslim brothers that they fight to kill, and whoever does that wants to kill his enemy. So 65 times the Quran asks them to become murderers. There are 165 non-abrogated verses in the Quran, calling for the use of violence, and 185 non-abrogated verses, calling for the use of armed force for the spread of Islam. The Quran mentions fire and hell 200 times in terrible dreaded words, in the aim of intimidating and submitting people. Finally, it contains 949 threats to those who will not obey. Point 46. If Allah is the capable of everything, the one who has recorded everything in a book, past and future, as was said in Surah Al-Naba, number 78, verse 29, and the one who misleads whom He wills and guides whom He wills, as was said in Surah Ibrahim, number 14, verse 4, would He need violence and force and frightening to get people to obey? The Quran justifies the rape of girls and women. For example, and those who guard their chastity, except with their wives and the captives, whom their right hands possess. As was said in Surah Al-Ma'arij, number 70, verses 29 to 30. How do you call imposing a sexual relationship on the woman or the girl who became the right-hand possession? The Canadian brother Ismail spent 16 years as a Muslim, then became an apostate. He explained in a video how he started to understand this verse, and other verses, and he could not get to accept them as verses from Allah, who created the whole of humanity. He could not believe in an Allah who would have created creatures, and then would hate them. Point 47. It is not reasonable to think that all that comes from Allah, who would create what He likes, then order violence on what He created, and its killing. But it is plausible that it be a teaching coming from humans, who want to take advantage on the others, through violence and submission, and not that it comes from Allah the Loving. Point 48. The Quran pretends that it was revealed in clear Arabic language. Except it is not clear at all, even for native Arabs, to the point that it is not understandable without the human explanations, tafsir. The Quran pretends that it is impossible to produce a speech like it, as was said in Surah At-Tur, number 52, verse 54. And that means with words and verses of eloquence and rhetoric like it. That is for sure, because its writing is weak, poorly organized, and difficult to understand. For example, Noah's story is found in 29 pieces spread throughout the Quran. As for the story of Abraham, it was dispersed in the Quranic text in 37 parts, without any logical organization. This type of text is usually useless and not preserved over time. But what kept the Quran throughout this period is that it calls for violence. And we look into the explanation of Al-Tabari on Surah Al-Anfal, number 8, verse 31, and when our verses are recited to them, they say, "We have heard this, if we wish we can say the like of this." This is nothing but the tales of the ancients. Al-Tabari teaches us that this verse was revealed because Al-Nazir bin Al-Harith became the captive of Al-Miqdad. Al-Nazir used to say about the Quran, "We have heard this, if we wish we can say the like of this." This is nothing but the tales of the ancients. And he also said, "By Allah, who is better in stories? Me or Muhammad?" And Al-Tabari informs us that Muhammad imposed on Al-Miqdad the killing of his captive, Al-Nazir ibn Al-Harith. Then, for sure, it is impossible that stays alive somebody who comes with a speech like the Quran. Point 49. But this is from Muhammad and not from Allah. Does Allah, the capable of everything, need to kill everyone who tries to come with stories and a speech better than the Quran? Let us conclude on the second statement. From all what precedes, it appears that Quran is not a revelation, but a human production.